What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Why Jesus podcast, episode 21. I'm really excited for our guest today. I know I say that every episode. It's because we be having exciting guests. So that's why. But this one in particular, because he is in the Christian hip hop world and not just in it, but making a whole lot of noise. And he has a similar background to me as far as music goes, starting in secular music. But the difference is I kind of just left music behind and he took his talent and skill to glorify God. So I'm extremely excited to introduce you guys to somebody you probably already know, Mr. Datin. How are you doing, brother?
I am great, my brother. I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, man, I'm so excited. Hold on, let me just turn off this Wi-Fi because I forgot that I'm directly plugged in. Boom. Um, I'm so excited to have you on here. What's interesting is like I've always seen your name pop up when I first became a Christian. I would see your name pop up here and there, but it wasn't until my boy C4 kind of got involved in your camp, right, and a part of your label. And C4, like I knew him when he was super young. I had this apartment in where was it? In Mount Vernon, and his cousin lived next door, right? We both lived in the boiler room. So this is like how crazy it was. We both lived in the boiler room. He lived in one door in the boiler room. I lived like you had to walk through the actual boiler room itself to get to my door. Um, and so C4 would always be there with it was either his other brother or cousin rapping. And since I used to rap, they would like rap for me. And at the time, I'm the older dude, they're younger, and I'm just like, I'm trying to do my own thing. And here I got these young kids thinking that I'm like something special, and I'm like, man, I'm living in this $500 a month apartment with the pipes coming through the ceiling, cockroaches everywhere. Like I'm right next to your cousin. I'm nobody special, but he always had skill. And then when I saw
Yeah.
him get into the battle scene, um, like he was just killing it in the battle scene. And then all of a sudden, he started rapping Jesus songs. And this was before I was saved. And I'm like, if I remember correctly, it was before I was saved. And I wasn't comprehending it, but he was still really good. And
Yeah.
I don't mean to start this whole interview talking about C4, but that's
Oh no,
just
all good.
that's just how I connected with your stuff. And he was the first artist that I really heard with like gritty Christian hip hop. And then it opened me up to you and other artists that I've just been stumbling upon because I liked gritty hip hop. Period. From New York. That
Yeah.
was it. I lost record deals because I wouldn't change my gritty hip hop stuff. So to find a whole entire genre of music that I feel good listening to is just incredible. So before we get into all that music stuff, I know I've been talking a lot, but just give us your quick background. How did you come to Christ?
Quick background, make a to condense an extremely long story. Uh, kind of like you, I grew up a hip hop baby. My dad was a DJ, so I mean, from infancy, I'm hearing hip hop records played, and of course, I aspired to emulate what I saw. My uncles are hip hop heads, my dad's friends, so I wanted to be an MC since like a baby. Um, and my dad is credited for being one of the first DJs, period, to bring hip hop into New Jersey
Oh,
because he
wow.
would go to the park jams in the Bronx out in New York and then like, yo, bring it to Jersey. And they like, what's this? You know what I'm saying? So grew up a hip hop baby, had big dreams of being a rapper. When I got into my teens, I started to pursue music. Um, one way of building my buzz. I always felt like a better songwriter, but I felt like, hey, this battle stuff seems to be getting attention. And this is like pre 8 Mile. This is before 8 Mile. And I hit the battle scene hard. And then when 8 Mile picked up and came out, it's just everybody's attention was on the battle scene.
Yep.
So that really helped out big time. I ended up on 106 and Park Freestyle Friday. I was champion on that for a couple of weeks.
Man, you just
Uh,
brought it. I'm sorry, but you just brought it back.
yeah, I brought it back. I'm aging myself right now, bro.
The
But I
Freestyle
started really
Friday.
young. Yeah, I was champion on that. That got me into Monday Night Fight Club, where Monday Night Fight Club, for those who may not know, it's like a celebrity battle scene that's really exclusive. You could only go by invite. So all the best of the best would be there. All these battle rappers today that are out of here, like the famous ones, they started at Monday Night Fight Club.
Mm,
I was champion on Monday Night Fight Club. At the time, I exclusively wanted to sign to Shady Records.
of course.
So, yeah, they were on top of the world. 50 was on top of the world. I'm this young kid. I want to sign with Shady. Well, Riggs Morales, he's a very famous A&R right now. I think he's like the president of Atlantic Records, if I'm not mistaken. He was the director of A&Rs at Shady. Since he helped ran the Fight Club, of course, he invited me over for some meetings, played some music for him, and it looked like boom, I was gonna get my opportunity. I was working on this demo for Shady. I don't know if you ever heard of NEMS. NEMS is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
big right now. Well, then I was also in a group with my man NEMS. So that whole FYL thing, he be screaming, the bing
Mm-hmm.
bong and all that. I was a part of that pre Christ. So so before Christ, me, Nems, and my other man is in a group. We're also working on like a group demo for Bazaar from D12. He was gonna take that to so I had two plugs. I had Riggs and I had Bazaar. In this process, right, while all of this is going on, Def Jam's interested, Columbia Records is interested. I'm at Quincy Jones mansion talking to his nephew, Ferraris and Lambos in the front. My jaws dropped. This is stuff that like I don't harp too much on the street stuff, but like yo, it was a gangbanger, a drug dealer, you know what I'm saying? Poor, grew up in poverty, didn't have nothing, and even didn't I didn't get to see good, so I really had a hard time believing I would receive good.
Mm-hmm.
Like we was poor. I lived 2 years with no electricity and an extension cord from the neighbor's house, so just to plug up the fridge. And now I'm seeing my wildest dreams come true. And in my mind, I was like, yo, once I achieve these things will fulfill this emptiness inside.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yo, I need this girl. I need this car. I need this chain. I wanted to be flashy. I wanted to get my mama a house. These are all hood dreams. I'm going to get my mama out the hood or at least get her a house. I started to see all of this come to fruition. Was able to put a down payment on a house with mixtape money. Had the car I wanted. Had a stupid big chain with diamonds. I got the girl I wanted. The one that I was like, yo, when I blow up, I'm gonna come back and get her. I didn't need the super blow up. And in my day, you had to become industry famous before you became famous to the world. So right now, you become famous to the world, and then the labels take recognition and they give you a deal. With me, labels took recognition before and they put you out and made you hot. So I was industry famous. I got famous friends. I'm rapping on beats from Alchemist, all the heat makers, all the best producers at the time. So I got to a point during all of this, the Passion of the Christ comes out.
Oh
I have
man.
this kid, yeah, I have this kid in my group, and he was probably 15 at the time. And aside from FYL with NEMS, I had my own group that I started in back in North New Jersey. So this kid was the chosen one to me. Like he was just better than everybody else in my group. He was only 15, 16, rapping like a grown man. I go watch the Passion of the Christ. I'm living with a female, and I believe she was pregnant at the time. Um, we watch the Passion of the Christ. When we leave, I'm like floored, bro. I wasn't religious, didn't have a religious background, and my best friend, his girl, me and my girl get in the car, and I'm just like, yo, I wish I never saw this. And they were like, yeah, because it was gory. I'm like, I wish I never saw this because what do I do with this information? It resonated. It's only the Holy Spirit that can do that. And I'm not saying I was sealed by his spirit at that time, but it really pierced my heart and really messed with me. From that point on, I couldn't continue in my sin in peace. But I was hard headed. I had idols. You know what I'm saying? So I refused to let them go, but I couldn't continue in peace. So now this kid sees the Passion of Christ also. He knows, right? His name is Lionel. So Lionel knows that when I get on, he's the first to get on. He sees it. He went with me to 106 in Park. He saw me be champion. He hears I'm like a hood celebrity at this time. And Lionel comes to my house and he tells me, yo, I'm dropping out the group. I'm giving my life to Jesus. And I'm like, nah, you can rap and still believe in God. I'm trying to talk him out of it.
Yeah.
Of course, I still wanted him to be involved, but more so is like, if he could walk away from this all, Dad, what's my excuse? So it really convicted me. It convicted me. It really messed with me. That kid, I probably had the most influence on him. He smoked his first blunts with me, probably drank his first, swig of liquor with me, and he cut everyone else off so he can grow, except me, except his OG. He didn't cut me off. So now from time to time, my man would come through. He had a whip, and he'd be like, yo, I'm gonna pick you up real quick. Pick me up and minister to me. Play Christian hip hop for me. And I would try to out debate him or debate him out of his beliefs and would fail miserably. I seen God take this guy who was like a nuisance. Like he was a knucklehead kid, would hype too much, hyperactive. I used to literally have to grab him up in the studio and shake him up because he'll piss the rest of the group off. Like, yo, man, stop playing so much. And I seen God just turn him into like the wisest man. I mean, he did such an A+ job at witnessing to me. Was like a 15-year-old, 16-year-old at the time. I still use some of the practices that he used on me today. Like,
Wow.
man, God really, his hand was on this kid. Make a long story short, I do this MTV reality show. And I got MTV following me around in the hood with cameras. I won this competition, and this was it. I was gonna be out of here. I'm back and forth with Detroit, with D12, all these dreams coming true, all these opportunities. Um, this kid sees that. He's like, man, I'm losing them. You know what I'm saying? So he tells me, Datin, I'm gonna come pick you up. Picks me up. We pull up to, we drive mad far. We pull up to this beautiful home. And I'm like, yo, who's this? All of a sudden, this female comes out and she's very familiar. I'm like, yo, that's old girl from Total. Remember Diddy's group Total?
Yep.
So the lead singer, Pamela Long, the one with short hair, kind of, she was Cock Diesel. So Pamela Long comes out and I'm like, yo, that's Pam from Total. We go into our house, and what I didn't know is she walked away from Bad Boy and gave her life to Christ. So
Wow.
the public may think that Diddy dropped them, but they had just dropped a double platinum album, the second album. So they had Kissing You on it, all these hit singles, and disappeared. It's because Pam left. So when Pam walked away from the fame, my man Lionel meets her and he asked her, like, yo, could you talk to my man? Because he about to blow. We sit down, and man, what she said and how she witnessed to me that day really, really pierced my heart. And it just got to the point where, like, yo, I'm on this hamster wheel headed nowhere fast, thinking these things would fulfill me, and they wouldn't. It took a very long time. My man witnessed to me for years. He probably started in 2004, and this is now 2007 comes around, and I'm just like, yo, none of this is doing it. None of this is doing it. After my man Proof died, Eminem's best friend, that prolonged the process. Eminem, of course, they wasn't picking up the phone no more, trying to sign no rappers. So that stopped. I was playing so many games with Columbia Records and Def Jam with a bidding war. Like, yo, but Shady is over here offering, so y'all should put more on the table. Now they like, nah, go to Shady, punk. You know what I'm saying? Get out of here. So all these opportunities stopped. God ceased them all to get my attention. I just remember moments being like a whole grown man on my knees, crying, begging him to leave me alone so I could do me. That's how hard and strong the conviction was. He relentlessly pursued me. Um, And yo, just one day, man, I just was like, yo, I'm gonna call my man and tell him pick me up. I'm gonna go to church with him. I did that. Um, he picks me up. We go to church. I respond to an altar call, and the pastor says, he says, you know, if you were to pass away today, your name will be written in the Lamb's Book of Life. And at that moment, I said every curse word in the world in my mind to him. I mean, get out of here. You know what I'm about to do after this? I'm trying to take this dude, girl. I'm about to go smoke this blunt. This is what I thought of myself. I'm like, I'm going to hell. I ain't going to heaven. Like, man, why you lying to me? So my friend is mad excited. He been witnessing to me for years. We leave, he sees me. I'm the only one that responds to this altar call in this huge church. And he's like, bro, poor guy. He's smiling. He's like, yo, Datin, how you feel? And I'm just like, beep, 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 mad curses. Man, bump that dude. Da, da, da. He lied to me. So I go on, I make little, try to make my little promises to God because I got into a scenario where I got into some trouble and was like, God, if you let me off the hook, I'll give you my life, I'll give you my music, I'll give you everything. God got me off the hook, and I was like, yo, good looks, and I kept doing me. So I did something I said I wouldn't do in my carnal, stupid mind, not understanding how this faith works. But I called my boy and I'm like, man, I promised God that I wasn't gonna mess with this married woman, and I did. And man, and I did this and this and that, all this stuff. And he just laughed. He's like, yo, Dayton, you can't serve Jesus without Jesus. He's like, that's what you're trying to do. He's like, come to church, bro. I went with him that Sunday and never turned back, man. I gave my life to the Lord, and I mean, it was a slow process for me. I wasn't one of those 0 to 60. You know, it took some time for him to clean up my mouth. It took some time for me to get out the club rapping with Nems, middle finger in the air, talking about F your life. But you know, every sermon I heard sounded like it was directly for me. He could have been preaching about apples and oranges. It sounded like I want your life, I want your gift, I want it all. Of course, what us rappers do, it's all I've ever known. I get saved. At the time, I have this contract with the studio. My boy puts up drug money so I could sign this contract with a studio and block out like a whole to record a whole album. I have this secular company at the time. They've since like you know they don't exist anymore. But at the time, there was like buzzing underground company. It was like an accomplishment to have them involved with the album process. They were documenting the whole thing. And as I'm recording, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, bro. I had no plans of being a Christian rapper, but everything was coming out Christ centered. I mean, to the point where if I were to release the content, it would be biblically sound, like straight up. And I wasn't really immersed in the scriptures. I wasn't in the scriptures like that. You know, I had like basic knowledge. Um, and the company takes and they like, yo, Dayton, this is the last week we coming. I'm like, why? He's like, man, you making a Christian rap album. I'm like, nah, chill. You know what I'm saying? They like, nah, we done. Um, I'm recording this song. I'm with my man Lionel outside the studio, and I just tell him, I'm like, yo, man, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be recording an album right now. I feel convicted. And he was like, bro, I knew you wasn't gonna receive it if I told you. So I've been praying for God to speak to you. He's like, yeah, I really think you need to sit down and grow in the Lord before you go trying to, you know, seek a platform. And I did, man. I put the mic down for like 2 years, 3 years, and I just grew in the Lord. I really made up my mind that, yo, I'm done with rap. But the very same people that were suggesting that I put the mic down now started to be like, yo, I got this open mic. They discipled me. They saw I was ready. I got this open mic. You should spit. I come through the Christian open mic rap, and I really had no plans for it to be to go this far, but God saw fit to use me, and since then, man, I've toured the world. Um, got to see the planet preaching the good news of Jesus Christ, bro. So yeah, it's been good stuff.
That's such an incredible story. Like I'm just sitting here listening to it, and since since I was in the music industry, quote unquote, in the music industry, because there's levels to that, to saying that. But like hearing you deal with all of the craziness that goes on, where you have this carrot at the end of the stick, the record deal that's just gonna change your life completely, right? And it's like everything that you do in your life is focused on that carrot at the end of the stick. You don't know who's gonna give you the carrot. You want to be in a specific, like Shady, Aftermath, that whole era. That was like that's where I wanted to be too. I had meetings with G Unit. I screwed them all up. Like it's it's such like an engulfed focus. And I also understand what it feels like to have that focus shattered, because you're like, nah, I can't do this anymore. For you it was Christ. Before it was Christ, it was business for me. I got introduced to like business and marketing and all that. And I was looking for a way out because I was so tired of the music industry. I was so tired of the nonsense of, no, John, you got to be like this. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to rap like that. I recorded. I remember my manager. He was we were working with Cash Money, Young Money at the time, right? He was like all the way in there. And they had me recording these like club songs. And I was not a club rapper. So every club song that I made, I threw like shots at my manager on the club song. So like I hated the music industry. So I was looking for a way out. And then I got involved in business and I realized that I could not take the industry life into my business if I wanted to be successful. And that's kind of how God got me out of that. Because I was like, I wanted the top spot of World Star Hip Hop. When they had the banner, right? The banner at the top of World Star, and then you had the little videos underneath. The little videos, they did good, but it was $4,000 for the top banner, right? And so I didn't have it at the time, but I had a fire video that I won an Underground Music Award for, and I was just like, all right, cool, we're gonna rob somebody. Like that was the mindset that I was in. The person I was going to rob actually ended up going to jail. So it's like, you look back at all this stuff and you're like, wow, God was even providing for you when you essentially weren't even his. It's like you were his before you were his,
That's facts.
And so hearing your story, it like brings all of this stuff back to me and like reflecting on it in my life. So before we jump even further into this, I have a question that has always been on my mind as far as it goes to Christian hip hop. What do you say to Christians? Like, what do you say to Christians who believe that hip hop has no place in Christianity?
I would say it's ignorant. I would say it's closed-minded. I would say it's extremely arrogant. It's foul to speak uh foul of what God can do. These are clearly people who, they have not seen its fruit. Yes, of course, there's arrogance that may come with it, but there's a level of arrogance that comes with preaching, with teaching, with any platform. You can have someone have false motives, you know what I'm saying, as they participate. Preaching, teaching, YouTubing, whatever it is. If it comes with a platform, the person with the platform must treat it like hazardous chemicals that you're cooking up, you're mixing to make a cure for other people. Yeah, I'm cooking something up that can cure you, but it can blow up in my face. You know what I'm saying? In the long run. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because you've seen some bad apples, just because you've seen secular hip hop that gifting be used to harm people. Like, yo, Christian hip hop bears fruit. I've seen it myself. I'm a product of it. As my man witnessed to me, like I said, I tried to condense this long testimony because there's a bunch of other crazy stuff that happened. But yo, one of the things that really also God used to pierce my heart was Christian hip hop. That was my love language. It's all I know. So when my man gave me the Truth CD, the Truth, the Faith, and now I'm admiring his wordplay. I'm like, man, they talking this old Christian bull. Like, I ain't trying to, but he's nice though. I'm studying his wordplay. His words are piercing my heart. You know what I'm saying? They're ministering to me. They're planting seeds. So, man, it's hip hop is the language of a generation, of a culture. And sometimes, there's just like a deep connection that people may have with the music, with music, period. So if that music is communicating the good news of Jesus Christ and that person internalizes it, right there, they don't want to hear a pastor, a preacher, teacher. They don't want to hear you on the corner doing open air preaching. And I do that. So there's no shade to that. But maybe hip hop is a way, a vehicle to be able to communicate that message. And I would just say it's ignorance, it's legalism, bro. For instance, YouTube, you're using this platform to preach, teach, communicate the truth of the gospel. How many other people use this platform to do harm, to spread, evil and hate? It matters with what matters is what you do with the platform. And that's how I feel about hip hop. Because I can demonize anything else they do. I'm sure they got a Facebook page. Facebook wasn't made for righteous purposes. I'm pretty sure they got an Instagram, because that's where they leave in the comments from
Mm.
Instagram. You think Instagram was made to worship God? Bro, the dude is a super atheist. You feel me? The owner of it. So, it matters. What matters is what you do with your platform. I would say the same principle applies for hip hop.
I would agree. It's interesting to me how I only see commentary here and there, but I rarely see it of like Christian country music. Yet a huge majority of Christian country musicians now are quote unquote deconstructing and allowing things and supporting things in the culture that are very anti-Christian. And it's in every genre of anything, whether it's music, whether it's TV, whether it's whatever. If you have a big group of Christians in there, some Christians are going to fall away, but I've just noticed a lot more in the country music, but you don't hear the same criticism as
Yeah, rock and roll too, bro. The
yep,
the whole the contemporary thing, bro. Come on. Wherever you have humans, you're gonna have screw ups.
yep.
So, bro, we're in desperate need of a savior. We live in a fallen world. You're gonna have a bunch of bad apples, guaranteed, just like you do in the church. So, man, like I read it and I'm just like, bro, look at him. He looks like the world. Meanwhile, they have a suit on, looking like, you think mobsters wear suits. You
Yep.
look like a mobster. You know what I'm saying? But you're so used to in your church seeing people with suits. You know what I'm saying? You think it makes you more godly, bro. Tony Montana had a suit on too, bro. So
And the biggest schemers in the world wear suits, politicians. So,
facts.
it's perception is not reality, even though they say that it is. So let's talk about the Menace movement. How did you get from just Datin rapping and doing his thing to now this whole Menace movement? And where did the name Menace come from? How was this created? And what are all of you guys working on right now?
So when I started, after a couple years in, I signed with God Over Money as a solo artist, right? Um, it was the label I wanted to sign with because I felt like Bizzle's heart, we shared the same heart, had the same passions, and I saw that he was passionate about spreading the gospel. So now, boom, along the way, by the grace of God, he trusts me with this platform. I generate a buzz and a platform, and I run across these artists who are like-minded in the faith, as far as theology goes, as far as passion goes. They have a passion for people, and I knew that I would usually feed artists to Bizzle, like, yo, Biz, hear this dude, hear this dude, hear this chick. You know what I'm saying? But these people, I was like, yo, they have a different sound. I don't know if that would be Bizzle's taste, but I feel like they deserve a chance. Um, so I wanted to create a platform, a record label, to be able to give uh the unlikely a chance. And when I say unlikely, it's not because they're not talented or it's just because it's a different sound. You know what I'm saying? And with CHH, with Christian hip hop, it's not like secular hip hop. It's less risky and more cookie cutter. So in Christian hip hop, whatever's popping, 95%, 98% is gonna go that route. And I'm like, yo, look at him doing boom bap, the C4. Look at Just Norris doing his soulful R&B. Look at Steph, a lyricist. Like, I'm like, man, they need to be heard. So man, I took and decided to invest into this thing, invest into them. And the name came from, man, the world is so backwards right now. Good is bad, bad is good. And when you stand for the truth of Jesus Christ, you're a menace in the world's eyes. You're a nuisance. I didn't want to start a label called Nuisance Movement. So I'm like, yo, hey, we the menace movement. And when I started this, like the word menace is like a trendy word right now. I started this before it was a trendy word. I was praying about what name. I said, what are we? What would we be in the world's eyes? I just felt like, yo, we'll definitely be targeted for this message. And that's where the target on the logo comes from. You know what I'm saying? Um, and then I just say, yo, we would be a stench in Satan's nostrils. We'd be a menace. Like, yo, I'm going to stick with that. That's what I'm going to run with. I signed my boy Stefanato and started with him, then signed his wife, Jess Norris, and so on and so forth. And I got a collective of fire artists who are passionate about the gospel and passionate about evangelism and passionate about ministry, but they all lyricists. Like, I got a collective of lyricists, like bar spitters.
Yeah, and that's my favorite part about it is the bars. Like
Yeah.
that is, we grew up in an era where it mattered how many syllables you rhymed. It mattered how, if you could rhyme something at the beginning of the bar, then at the end of the bar, right? And then in the next bar, have it in the middle of the bar and the end of the bar, and have it all flow together. Like it was a beautiful construction of sounds and words, and saying them just a little bit differently to make them fit. And it was just like this beautiful symphony of lyricism. And now today I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's so the fact that you're doing that in a, Christian context is incredible. I remember when I listened to, when C4 sent me the Snakeskin Bible cover EP, when he kind of first got started with you guys. I remember I listened to that EP on repeat in the gym over and over and over and over, because this was my first real time taking time to listen to gritty Christian hip hop.
That's
and
dope.
and I'm like, yo, I'm so glad this exists, you know, for
Yeah.
people like me. And there's people out there that, it was funny how you were, not funny, but interesting how you were talking about how when you listened to Christian hip hop, this was ministering to you. This was, piercing your soul and speaking your language, and something that I learned in business is if you want to make a sale, you have to speak the language of the customer. You can't just, say, this is why you need it. No, you have to understand why they would need it. And then you talk to them in that language. We've seen recently how companies are not speaking the language of their customers, and they're trying to tell their customers how they should be acting. And the backlash is loss of billions,
Yeah.
So in the same way, the fact that you guys are doing this is just, it's incredible to me. So how do you, because when you have a secular label, right? The only thing you have to worry about is, does this person have talent and can I make money off of them, right? That's pretty much it. Can we exploit them as much as possible? Are they marketable? Are they attractive? The whole entire list. And they don't have to be attractive, in the way like a model would have to be attractive, but attractive to an audience that people would want to see and listen to them. But when it comes to signing Christian artists, there's a whole list of other things that you have to look at, because you're essentially in a leadership position, right? When you're essentially a preacher on beats, right? So if you're, what, as you're sifting through all of this talent, what are some things besides just the talent you look for when not only collaborating yourself on like a track with somebody, but an artist that you're like, I'm signing this person?
Um, of course, I'm not gonna lie and be like bars don't matter. That's the first initial, that's the debate on the hook.
Yes.
Then now I start to look into their character. How do they conduct themselves? Are they held accountable? Are they involved at their local church? Would they be equipped to minister if we went out? Now they can have the lyricism because there's plenty of fire lyricists, right? There's one I could think of course I won't name him, but his music was incredible. Probably would be my biggest artist if had signed him, and I know he would have liked to sign. But when I looked into his life, it was just some things that's just like, I believe the brother saved, but it's just like, yeah, I don't think he's equipped for ministry. So after touring with God Over Money so much, it opened my eyes to how effective Christian hip hop can be. And I said, because we're out there doing ministry by the grace of God. So I said, hey, when I start my own label, I want people equipped for that environment that can go out and pray for people that will respond and just have a sound, response, biblically sound. And I've done life with all these people. So there's no strangers in my circle. I didn't sign any strangers. I went to church with three of them. I've been like best friends with one for over 10 years. I played Monster Tarver. He lives like super close to me, like a half hour away. Uh, I started hanging out with him a lot before I approached him, like for like a couple years, just to see how he conducts himself. Um, so there's no strangers in my circle. Like C4, I've known C4 since we were in the world. Life. It's not like we were like BFFs. You know what I'm saying? Uh, I first heard of him and people told me like, yo, I know this dude. We got this kid with us. His name's C4. We call him Baby Datin because I'm older than C4 is. So I'll be like, word. I found him on MySpace and I was like, oh, I see the similarity. Yeah, I just aged myself. I found C4 on MySpace, and I'm like, oh, I hear the similarity, but he's original. You know what I'm saying? I saw him kill it in the battle scene, and then somewhere along the road, we parted ways. He was serving the Lord, but then he backslid. Crazy quick story is, um, someone was tuned in to C4 secular music. I had just dropped my artist Stefanato's first album. C4 used the same sample, so their beats sounded very similar, like C4's beat and my artist beat. My boy sends it to me, and I listen to C4's joint, and I'm like, man, this dude is so dope. Like, I hit him up, and I'm like, yo, fam, I ain't gotta tell you, bro. You know you running from God. It's like, yo, you know you running from God, bro. Like God want to use this gift of yours. And he responds, he's like, hey, it's crazy that you hit me up about this. I gave my life to Christ 4 months ago. I rededicated my life to Christ.
Wow.
So yeah, I was like, that's crazy. So I played him close. Maybe about 2 years, listening to his music, helping him out. And then just it got to the point where it's just like, bro, you might as well just come on with us. Like, and he was the last artist I signed.
Yeah, C4 is he's one of my favorite people. His personality, his laugh is like you could trademark his laugh.
Okay.
He's just such an incredible dude. So, what are some of the challenges that you guys face? Being in hip hop, and people maybe not understanding what it is you guys are actually doing. What are some challenges that you face since the hip hop scene is mostly secular?
Yeah.
It's not just secular. It's like debaucherous. I
Yeah.
I listen to some of the stuff I used to rap And I even put it in my book. I was like, look, if you ever want to see how far God has taken me, just search J Clash on datpiff.com. But datpiff.com just recently changed their stuff, so you can't even find me. But or on YouTube, there's some videos that I just can't erase. Like I can't get them taken down. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, this is how I used to think. So in an environment where everybody thinks like that, what are some challenges you guys face going, head first with a biblical
Man,
narrative?
it's a challenge from two sides because uh with the younger generation in Christian hip hop, they, not with all, I want to paint a broad stroke, but for the most part, a lot of them are watered down in content, and their gatekeepers, their role models, you know, weren't good examples. So we look we look like we're too like holy roller for them, like we doing too much. You know what I'm saying? So we get shunned by Christian hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they treat us like we do too much. They treat us like we too, like, yo, they too over spiritual. They super Jesus style. Um, so we get shunned on the Christian hip hop side, and then of course the world don't want to hear what we got to say because it's convicting. You know what I'm saying? So it's a big challenge. We're menaces on both sides because we not doing what they do. We not doing what they do. We gonna do what we do, and we just want to glorify God. So the goal isn't to be over preachy, and we just, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Speak what's on your heart. Speak what the Lord has placed on your heart, not just what's from your heart. The heart is deceitfully wicked above all things, but what the Lord has placed on your heart, man, speak that. So, yeah, that's the challenges we face, man. Getting shunned, not accepted.
What's interesting is one of the biggest selling artists, Eminem, right? One of his criticisms was that he was too vulgar. He was too on the edge. He made they had to take that song Kim off the album. Off one of the albums. So it's interesting how the industry saw that as like, it's you're pushing some boundaries here. They even had to like remove when he spoke about Columbine, from his
Yeah,
actual album. So this dude pushed the limits in that direction and is now labeled, one of the greatest. And he is one of the greatest lyricists.
for sure.
Just because I don't agree with what he's talking about doesn't mean I can't understand that he
Admire the
is.
skill that it takes to put together words. There's not a human being on planet Earth putting together multi-syllable rhyme schemes like him. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? He's
Yeah.
the bar. Like
Yeah.
I'm super intentional about my rhyme schemes. That's not by accident. I'm counting my syllables. Like I'm trying to outdo myself. Like, yo, I just did an 11 syllable rhyme scheme. I'm gonna try to do a 15 with this one. And who set that bar? That's M. That's
Yeah.
M all the way. But
Yep.
yeah,
So, he pushed the boundary that way. It's so funny to hear that uh, Christian artists are like, you guys are pushing the bar too far in the other direction. Like,
for sure.
that's
For sure.
bananas. That's bananas to me. I feel like
For sure.
that you might be a mirror for them, you know?
Yeah,
Um,
I believe that. I believe that. Somebody confessed that to me at one point. It was just like, yo, at one point I just thought y'all was too over spiritual. And then, I realized that I wasn't spiritual enough. So I'm trying to see what y'all trying to do. Like, we want to make music now. But the funny thing is this, bro. The world, like in Christian hip hop, their their standard for skill is very different. Like when you see the comments about who got the best pen, a lot of times it's like, word, like that's who got the best pen. No hate. I might like the dude's music, but it's like, okay, y'all standards is a little different over here.
yeah.
The world respects skill, and as of late, I don't know what it is, man, but everybody that has inspired me, with the exception of Nas, like, bro, be on my line, be in my DM. Like, yo, M just, not just a couple years back, M hit my man Armin. I mean, it's posted on my page on my IG. You can check it out.
I saw that.
Yeah, my man Armin was in talks with Eminem, and he sends me screenshots with a conversation with him and Eminem sends him my single "Hallelujah" all day. Uh, I'm in talks with R.J. Payne. I'm talking to Elzai, all these different artists that I admire. Chino XL, like they want to do records with me, sending me beats to drop a feature. Like they respect skill, and it's starting to get to the point where I would say the mainstream rejects us, but it seems like the underground is accepting of me. And it's like, man, they asking me to come over here and spit my Jesus rap. They not telling me, yo, Datin, water it down. Like, yo, I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the Lord. I want to talk about like your perspective. I'm going to talk about how I'm struggling, and I want you to, speak truth into my life, like stuff like that. And but the Christian side be like, we doing too much. So,
It's
yeah,
that's incredible because you're doing exactly what you spoke about at the beginning. You're speaking their language, and they may not have, you know, reached the point yet where they want to start speaking about this stuff. But you're definitely planting seeds. And Greg Kokel says it best. You know, you just want to put a pebble in somebody's
yeah,
shoe, right? But
yeah,
so what you were saying is also interesting because you know how you're saying that like they respect the skill, right? And I think that we're coming to a point, you know, not only with music, but just in Christian culture as a whole, where people are they want, especially younger people, are coming back to theology. You know, they're coming back to wanting to devour the word and wanting to understand scripture, and they're becoming less emotional, you know, and more focused on, you know, what does the Bible actually say? And I think that
yeah.
as that shift happens, people will probably become more interested in the style of music that you guys are doing, and it may not be the same type of beats and everything, but that real solid theological talking about the world through a Christian lens type music, because it's the only thing that like feeds the soul, you know.
For sure,
So
for sure.
with that being said, we're coming up on our hour of time with you, and I appreciate you being here. What is do you believe is the future for Christian hip hop as a whole, and more specifically, what do you think the future? You know, not what do you think. God willing, what is the future for, you know, the whole Menace movement and you as a solo artist?
So what I hope the future is, it's kind of piggybacking off of what you just said. Younger people are starting to crave theology. God will use one extreme to it's human nature. Like either the pendulum swings too far to the left or too far to the right. Right now, the pendulum has went too far to the left. I see you going toe to toe with the demon slayers.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
with you, fam. I'm with you, and I can't wait to address this stuff myself. You know what I'm saying?
I've thought
So
about, I'm sorry to cut you off, but I've thought about putting it in a song. Like, I'm like, how do I get these people to listen, you know?
yeah, 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 bro. It's frustrating, and I'm an associate pastor myself, and I have to deal with or have conversations with people who believe that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They're watching the those guys. I ain't even gonna name them. They're
We don't,
watching all of them, and they're coming to me like, yo, but he said, and I'm like, no, let's go through the word. So um a lot of young people are taking notice to this, and I'll see the same kid who I may, assume he's not as passionate about the word as I think we should be as ministers. And yo, nah, look at them talking crazy. So I think what's gonna happen is the pendulum is gonna swing back to the right. Young people will be passionate about the word. It'll reflect in their music because from the abundance of the heart, like I said. And I believe Christian hip hop will continue. People shouldn't be discipled through music, but they can be discipled through music. It can be a form, another tool. Um, and I'm hoping it becomes that. As far as plans for the Menace movement, I think Christian hip hop is always slower at picking up on things. So we see a wave in secular hip hop that, you know, you got the Griseldas and all that. They rapping on grimy beats. I feel like we're not the only ones, but we're definitely a staple for that in CHH. And they're slow to catch up, but they'll catch on. And I think we'll, God willing, we'll be around for a while doing this. I mean, my music, I do a bit of everything. Um, but when I signed artists, I wanted to sign artists that can cater to that sound and talk that language for those people that like that. Oh, you like Benny the Butcher? You like, well, listen to C4. Not that he sounds like them, but he can communicate to those people they would like that sound. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you like Lupe? You like Common? Hey, check Stefanato out. You like Tech Nine? Listen to Monster Tarver. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
All right. Well, I'm excited to watch this all play out in real time. I'm super appreciative that you came on here and spent time with me. I know you've been touring around like crazy and bouncing from here to there, from the West Coast to the East Coast, back to the West Coast, back home, back out again. So the
Yeah.
fact that you took time to come and speak with me, I really appreciate it. And so just let people know where they can find you, right? Like social media, all that.
Yeah, hit me on the gram. It's at Datin, Datin underscore triple D, TRIPLED, spelled out, or the menacemovement.com. You can find all of our social medias and everything, every music link, merch, all of that there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on here, guys, in the chat. Thank you all for being here. Make sure that you stay tuned to the Why Jesus podcast. Stay tuned to everything the Menace movement is doing, and we will see you guys on the next one. God bless.
God bless.